La parole à Le Pont.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Special procedures of the HRC should carry out an investigation into Sri Lanka to put an end to the genocide of the Tamils. Since 1948, the Sri Lankan government has reduced the Tamil nation to a minority by reshaping the frontiers of the district. And Batticaloa is the last majority Tamil region. With the help of hundreds of Buddhist temples have been set up now in Tamil lands with the goal of a demographic permanent change. 14 military Sinhalese division of 21 have been placed in Tamil native lands. Many thousands of hectares of land in the north have been affected and occupied by force by the army. Political prisoners in Sri Lanka, who are all Tamils, have been systematically oppressed and ill-treated by the armed forces. Those prisoners were subjected to torture and arbitrary detention. The Office on Missing Persons, which started work 4 years ago, has no credibility with the Tamil victims of enforced disappearance. As to the situation of human rights defenders, Madam President, it's been 11 years since the Tamils have been denied the ability to have memorial services for their dead fellow countrymen. Many human rights defenders have received orders from the occupying armed forces to not commemorate their fellow Tamil for 3 and the Tamils demands
Association culturelle des Tamouls en France.
Thank you, Chair. To supplement the information in the report of Special Rapporteur on Truth and Justice, we wish to highlight a series of violations Ulam Tamils are facing in our Tamils homeland. For the last 11 years after the end of the war, Ulam Tamils are facing structural genocide in their own homeland. The new Sri Lankan regime continues to destroy Ulam Tamils' life with military occupation. We draw this Council's attention to the promotion of several military officers who, according to the findings of various UN investigations, may bear criminal responsibilities for crimes of genocide under international law. We are also worried at the assignment of the Ministry of Defense as the oversight body for NGOs as a function under the State Minister of Internal Security, with a special priority to regulate non-NGOs among others concerns. The Ulam Tamils are being further marginalized by increased state patronage for singular Buddhist nationalism. For instance, the Presidential Task Force for the Archaeological Heritage Management in the Eastern Province currently includes 6 Buddhist monks, but no representatives from Tamils communities. The families of Ulam Tamils subjected to enforced disappearances at the hands of the occupying Sri Lankan military groups courageously staged protests in the north and east, passing a strong message to the unitary state of genocidal Sri Lanka on the International Day of the Victim of Enforced Disappearances on 30th August. Awaiting justice. Thank you. Nandri Vanakkam.
Thank you very much. Next is the Society for Development and Community Empowerment.
Merci Madame la Présidente. I would like to highlight to this Council the current human rights violations the Tamils are facing, especially on their right to exercise their political and cultural rights. Indeed, we want to point out the lack of democratic process for Tamils in their own lands under military occupation. The occupying military in Sri Lanka has been harassing the Tamil candidates contesting in the general elections, particularly the Tamil National People's Front and the Tamil Makkal Desiya Kutani in the northern and eastern provinces. The Sri Lankan army has been deploying surveillance teams and field-backed units during their campaign meetings. The TNPF, one of the Democratic Party, has publicly alleged that the Sri Lankan military intelligence operatives were behaving in a threatening manner in the election meetings, forcing the candidates to withdraw from the elections. The TMTK leader and former Chief Minister of Northern Province, Justice Vineswaran, was harassed by the field-backed group of the Sri Lankan army recently when he went for an election meeting to Kurunakar, a suburb of Jaffna. We are gravely concerned by the series of regressive steps and by signs of further backtracking on reconciliation, accountability and human rights in Sri Lanka. We reiterate our call to the Human Rights Council to establish an international accountability mechanism on Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Action of human movement.
Thank you, Madam President. This statement is addressed to Mr. Livingston Savaniana, independent expert on the promotion of a democratic and equitable international order regarding the rights to self-determination of Elam Tamils. During the genocidal war against Elam Tamils in the island of Sri Lanka that ended in May 2009, 146,679 people were unaccounted for only in Vanni, and that only during the last 1 year of the war. The Elam Tamil victims have been patiently waiting for the last 110 months, especially the victims, the mothers of missing persons, the widows, the orphans, that this council will ensure and deliver justice and accountability with a strategy on transitional justice. Besides, Tamil community has been denied self-determination in Sri Lanka, whereas this right has been recognized in other international and regional human rights instruments. It has been endorsed by the International Court of Justice. Furthermore, the scope and content of the right of self-determination has been elaborated upon by the United Nations Human Rights Committee and Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, as well as international jurists and human rights experts. Unless proper mechanism is developed with international communities, the problems relating to promotion and protection of all human rights, civil rights, political, economical, social and cultural development, including the right to development, cannot be solved. We call on the special procedures to take all possible steps to protect Tamil living in their homeland from Sri Lankan genocidal politics, to promote an independent investigation into genocide against Elam Tamils, to push a referendum to recognize Tamil rights.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Emil Usagam.
The Convention of the Prevention and Punishment on Genocide in UN General Assembly on 9th December 1948 explains that the genocide means any of the following acts committed with the intention of destroying in whole or in part national, ethnic, racial or religious group. Firstly, the Sri Lankan army and the state-sponsored singleist communalized crowds like Kadayas with a white van has been abducting, murdering Tamil youths, journalists and human rights defenders. Secondly, the communalized military and fascist government have beaten, threatened over the mobiles, screamed and unnecessarily checked the female leaders of Association for the Relatives of Enforced Disappearance with the help of the court and the police CID and the military CID on and after 30 August 2020. The continuous rape and imprisonment by the state-sponsored mobs and the army create a mental illness. The Sri Lankan military is endangering forced prostitutions, introducing drugs, pornography and alcohol shops for 24 hours in the north and east. Thirdly, the military and the state-sponsored mobs looted, burnt and destroyed Tamil houses, shops, fishing and cultivable land and brought about the physical destruction. According to the International Commission of Jurists, the physical violence on the single rights, military and police on the Tamils is a physical genocide. We appeal to the UNO Human Rights Council to take appropriate steps to end the physical genocide in the north and